Welcome to She Sells Radio. My guest today is coming to us all the way from Kuala Lumpur. And so, as we were getting started, it's 10 o'clock Eastern in the morning where I'm recording here. I said, "What time is it?" She's coming to us 10 o'clock at night, so generously showing up to be on the show today. And I think that spirit of generosity that she carries embodies exactly who this woman is. And this incredible woman turned, listen to this blows my mind. She turned 50 cents into $5,000 in 2 weeks. So, you want to find out how she did it. And I do too. And she helps business owners and startups in Malaysia create a regular $5,000 income in just 30 to 90 days, which I'm all about. How can we bring in more money quickly? How do we create that quantum leap? And so I think she also embodies that. And her whole business philosophy, which is part of why I wanted to have her on She Sells Radio, is that keeping giving in mind is more sustainable than the kind of, you hear old ways of like profit first and fighting for your market and competition, which I personally am ready to just be done with all of that and really anchor into generosity first as our business model. And so, like I said, she absolutely embodies that. And she believes that the more you give, the more you will receive. And her business model benefits marginalized communities. So as her business grows, and since incorporating this into her business, she's actually quadrupled her business income. And she's helped at least 10 refugee and low income community leaders generate incomes within their communities and has helped them out of poverty as well. So you can already tell this woman's heart, her generosity, everything that she's about. And we are just so honored to have her on the show today. So please welcome all the way from Kuala Lumpur, my guest today, Murshidah Said. Murshidah, welcome to She Sells Radio.
Oh, thank you so much, Elyse, for having me. I am so honored and I'm so excited to be speaking to you tonight.
Yes, it's so amazing. And, I think just that beginning part of your story, I would love to hear more about. And I know that our listeners would as well, where you turned 50 cents into $5,000 in 2 weeks. How the heck did you do it, sister? That's amazing.
Yeah. And the most interesting thing about that time in my life, Elyse, I was sitting on that for like 2 years. I didn't know I already had those resources. And only because we moved to Kuala Lumpur. My husband got a job in Kuala Lumpur and he was fired after 2 weeks and he wasn't paid and he didn't sign a contract. And, I was with a 6-month-old baby and I was expecting, him to provide for us. And he couldn't. And then it's like, I had to make a quick decision because we were asked to leave the house we were staying in within 2 weeks if we, because they needed a house back. And, with a child, no money. I only had 2 ringgit, which is equivalent to like 50 cents US in my pocket because I failed my last business and I wasn't really, doing anything much with my life at that time. I was just depending on people for money. And with that, that when my back was against the wall, I had to do something. And being homeless was not in my reality, right? I decided to see what I already have. But one of the first things that I noticed that really shifted for me was when I started to feel gratitude. And one of the reasons why I felt gratitude was when my husband was fired the same day and we went back home. I was not talking to him at that time. I was with my baby and I was like, okay, never mind. Let's look at what we have in this house. So I went to the storeroom and I found 3-in-1 coffee and I found cookies, biscuits, and I was like, wow, we won't go hungry. And I was so happy at that moment. I felt gratitude, because I never felt so much gratitude with just seeing coffee and biscuits, right? Yeah. And then after that, I opened my laptop. At that time, I had an old Texas Instrument laptop and I turned it on and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just turned it on. And then this thing came out on my screen, CEOs in Kuala Lumpur. And I'm like, when did I have this database in my computer? And I was like, I decided to send those emails. Yeah, there was no phone number, just name and emails. And I sent an email and I didn't ask for a job. I asked, can I meet up with you so that, we see how I can support you and all that, right? Nobody replied. One CEO replied, and that's the Napoleon Hill publisher, Think and Grow Rich publisher in Malaysia. And she said, yes, I've got half an hour tomorrow. Come to my office. You're welcome. And I was like, yeah, out of like 100+ database that I sent out an email to, one said yes. So the next day I went to see her and she was like talking about herself, and I asked her questions. I didn't say, please help me, I've got no job. I didn't dump her with my problems. Nobody knew I had no money. And you know, all I did was ask about her. And then I asked her the magic question, and I found this magic question. I still use it. Hey, how can I help you in your business? And she was like, hey, do you know anybody who wants to become a trainer? You know, this package, 4,000 ringgit, is so difficult to sell. If someone can help me, that would be great. And at that time, to 2006, it was an online course. People are not really into the internet. They like to have a teacher in front of them. So that course was not one of those things that people wanted to buy. But I said, okay, if Malaysians didn't want to buy, who would want to buy? So I thought of like who I knew who would be interested to be a trainer. So I thought of like real estate people, insurance people that I knew in Singapore, and 4,000 ringgit is like less than $1,000 in Singapore dollars. So I'm like, it might be interesting to them. So all I did was I sent a message by SMS with my old Nokia phone, and I messaged people that I know. And then one person came back and said, are you sure it's 4,000 ringgit? I said, yes. She transferred the money immediately. That day, I brought the money back to the office. I say, look, you have a sale. This is for you. And she said, wow. And she gave me cash on the spot. And again, I was like, I didn't expect the cash. So I said, thank you. And you know, again, gratitude, you know. And what I did with that money, I rewarded myself with nice oily fried noodles. And that was what I learned about celebrating every little small milestone I had. So I got about a 300, I think about that time, about $300 as commission. That was my first breakthrough, but it was not enough for me to get a new house, right? Sure. So what I did at that time, I did the same thing, send emails, made calls, and ask people, how can I support you? And then a couple of days later, the person who bought the package in Singapore, she called me to say thank you. She didn't expect such a good, you know, value for money. And I asked her again that same magic question. Hey, anything I can help you with your business? And she said, oh, you're in Kuala Lumpur. Do you know any rich people there? You know, all the, they call it the datos and the datins, which is like the lords and the ladies, you know. She said, if you know anybody of that, you know, that level, I'm selling investment packages. So if you can hook me up with any of them, I'll be so grateful to you. So I was like, yeah, why don't you meet the CEO of Napoleon Hill? She's a millionaire, you know? And then she's like, yeah. So I hooked them up, and it was an easy hookup because who wouldn't want to meet their client? So the publisher said, yes, she flew in from Singapore. She came to Kuala Lumpur the next day. They were making some conversations in Chinese. I wasn't sure what they were saying, but it was all about investments. And on the way out, the insurance agent from Singapore told me that it is a done deal. She said, she's going to transfer the money to me. I know I'm going to make that sale. Can I give you your commission upfront? That's all she said to me. I was like, wow, is there a commission? I didn't know that. And thank you. I was just very grateful. And I didn't check my bank account until the next day. And I found 20,000 in my bank account. That's like 5,000, all within less than 2 weeks. So what, Elyse, I realized at that time was I was already sitting on resources that I already have, only I wasn't doing anything about it. And I was complaining the 2 years that, you know, my business was down and everything. I was not in a very good vibe. So until I had gratitude, until I was celebrating, until I had a why, which is like, you know, at that time I was thinking I'm not going to be homeless. I got to do something, right? So I had a strong why. That was the ones that really expedited my drawing in that 5,000 in less than 2 weeks. So that's what I do with women now, my clients that really are looking to scale up. We have all of these celebrations, being grateful, giving, which is like, you know, you don't ask for anything, you don't ask for a sale, but you just asking people to help you, but you are actually offering support, you know, like how can I help you in your business, that sort of thing. So we work around that, and that's how, you know, we really activate the law of the universe, the giving and receiving energy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I have so many questions for you, Murshidah, but that story to me is, it exemplifies so many characteristics of truly successful people, not just the flash in the pan success, but people who have lasting success, of decisiveness, perseverance, generosity, gratitude. And I want to ask you too, because you said that for the several years prior, you hadn't been super positive. And then when this happened, when I think most people would probably, you know, it's like suddenly you have no money and you don't know what you're going to do, and you've got the baby, and most people I think would go farther down a spiral of depression, unhappiness, et cetera. But instead, you found those cookies, right, in the coffee in the pantry. You felt gratitude. How did you train yourself to stay in gratitude? And how did you know it was so important when you were doing it? Or was it just like, well, it feels better than being depressed about it. So, but when you're in a situation where most people would not be grateful, how did you train yourself to get to gratitude and then stay there throughout that 2-week period?
Yes, thank you. That's a very good question. And at that point when I got the news that my husband was fired, and he was like, "Look, we all came here with all our stuff." At that point, I felt like I really wanted to give up, right? And I know how it feels like you just go spiraling down. But what kept me up was my daughter at that time, and I said it was something beyond myself. I said, I cannot go down further because somebody else's life is at stake. And I was looking at my husband. I said, I cannot leave this man. He didn't look like he was doing this purposely to, make life difficult. He was trying his best. So I said, I'm going to keep this family together. So that strong why kept me going. And then also keeping in gratitude was something that I had to learn. And a couple of times, and this is something like, I shook my head just now when you said like, is it something I knew all along? No, I'm one of those big major queen complainers, like people used to call me queen complain. I will complain about everything, go to a restaurant, this is not good enough and all that. That was me like many years ago, right? So I was like I was also a very tough boss at that time. So that was something I do not ever want to become again, because that came from a space of hurt and anger. But I realized about how important gratitude was when I noticed, after that $20,000 story, you hear 20,000 ringgit story, you hear $5,000. It sounds really, wow, it sounds great and all that, happily ever after, right? It was not happily ever after. We had some other major things that happened after that as well. My relationship with my husband falling sick, and I felt I was burdened with a lot more things like keeping the family together and earning an income, running a business and all that, right? So that moment, I was not grateful at all. It was a moment of me focusing on why is this happening to me? What did I do? Why can't I choose a rich husband? That all of those things came in my head, right? And then there was one day I was like, I woke up in the morning and I was meditating, I was crying, I had no idea where is my next income going to come from, what business I was going to do at that time. And I opened the Quran and I opened a verse. I just opened the book and I found this verse that says, when you are grateful, I will give you more, right? Ooh. When you are grateful, I will give you more. And that moment, I just cried. I just cried and cried and cried. And I didn't know why I was crying, but I just cried. And I said, I had to be grateful. Yeah, why am I grateful? Yes, I have a roof over my head. Yes, I don't have maybe I don't have $10,000 in my bank account, but I've got a few $100s. That's enough for us to live and all that. So I'm grateful for that. And that was the first thing. I had that reminder in me. And you know what, Elyse? Right after that, I got calls, and it was like some magical thing when I felt like, yes, I'm so grateful. It's like, I was praying during dawn, right? It was like when the sun rose, like 7:30 a.m. in the morning, I started getting calls about, hey, are you free on this time? I need you to do training for this topic, this and that. So businesses started to come in. Yes. And I felt that was like a message to me personally. And until I read further about the laws of universe, about giving, the law of gratitude and all that. And I was like, that to me was my big reminder. So that was when I consciously put in my psyche to be grateful no matter what. Whenever there's a challenge, I say, yes, very interesting. What can I learn? I'm grateful that this thing happened to me because, yes. So that put me in a totally different mindset. Yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful. And the other part of the story that really, when you said it, I thought, gosh, I wonder how many people would do this. I don't know that I would have, is when you celebrated, when you made that first sale and you got what, $300, and you went and you got your noodles. And I think the inclination for most of us would probably be to stay in scarcity mode, right? Okay, I've got 300, but that's not nearly what I have. So let me hoard it and hold on to it before I get more. were you consciously leveraging a universal law in that moment by celebrating, or was it more just relief? Like, let me just treat myself for this. How did you stay in that energy of money flowing and not go into scarcity and hoarding in that moment?
Yeah, I know that scarcity feeling as well. But at that time, I was not gonna eat cookies and Nescafe 3-in-1 for the next 2 weeks until I get enough money. You know, I
Yeah.
was like the first thing I saw when I was walking. Gonna get home, right? I saw they were like a hawker food, and I was like, yes, I heard about these Indian noodles that's like really delicious in Malaysia. So I just gotta try it. And when I ate, I was like, yes, it felt so good. It's so delicious, right?
Yeah.
And that was when gratitude set in. It was not conscious, Elyse.
Mm.
It was all those things that happened to me, which I now track back and said, okay, this happened and this happened, this happened and this happened. And that was when I started noticing it now. But at that time, I was not. I was just hungry, but I felt good. I didn't know I was celebrating, but you know, in a way, I was celebrating with
Yeah.
$300. And how much is a plate of noodles? It was like $3, you know. So
Yeah.
it was something that I said, you know, I'm just gonna feed myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then all of this other stuff, like, you know, you gotta reward yourself because you take care of others. All that started to come in later, that you know, that's what I share with people now as well.
For sure. And so tell us about the law of giving. And I love that you talk about universal laws. It's something that have transformed my life. Like, knowledge of how they work has transformed my life. I teach my clients them, but particularly the law of giving, because I know that's a big part of your story, and also what how you help your clients now. So what is the law? How do we use it? How do we make sure we're not violating it? Give us the scoop, please, on the law of giving.
Okay. All right, sure. Thanks, Elyse, for that question. Yeah, the law of giving, as we all, some of us know, is the law of universe. And the more you give, whatever that you give out, and that is what you will get back. So even if you give something that is negative, you give negative
Mm.
energy, you will also receive negative energy. This is the law of giving and receiving. So what I put it into my business is that, you know, I believe in wanting to eradicate poverty, because
Mm.
I've never really seen homeless people in Singapore. I grew up pretty, you know, protected, you know, from seeing all the negative things around me and all that. But when I came to Kuala Lumpur, I saw that there were people that were living in the streets, and I was like children growing up in the streets, right?
Mm.
And I was very concerned about that. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to help these people. So what we started doing was visiting orphanages before, just to give some love to the children. And this is also something I realized in the law of giving and receiving, is that when I give love to all these children that I play with or I feed in the orphanage, I felt more love.
Wow.
And initially there was tension in my family, like my husband and I, because of our finances and all that. But when we started to visit orphanages as a family, all of us giving love to others, we grew our love within our families as well. Yeah. So it all
Mm.
started in the personal framework, and then in the business framework, what I also noticed is that we started to give more as we grow our business. The normal way, you know, the usual profit-centric way. We decided to say, okay, why not we do something on the side, like every Sunday, instead of going to the mall, we'll take our daughter to do street feeding for the homeless, give food for the homeless. And we saw that as we were giving and helping more people, our business actually grew. And by word of mouth, people were saying things like, hey, Murshidah and Zil, my husband's name is Zil, right? Murshidah and Zil are always helping people, let's join them. And more people started to come in and even contributing. And they say, oh, because we run it and we use our money for this cause, more companies also wanted to support us, right? So
Mm.
that we can do more good. So that was how it started. I saw that happen in my business. But something else happened along the way. I became close to some of the homeless people, right? I met a sex worker. She was only 17 years old and she was pregnant.
Mm.
And I was motivating her, trying to give her some, you know, mindset shift and all that, which didn't work because I see her only once a week, gave her food, and she just received and said, thank you. And then she gave birth. And then I gave her food again. And then after that, her baby grew up, and her baby was trained to, every time he sees me, he drew out his hand. because it became a programming that
Yeah.
he needs something from me. And I was like, look, I'm doing all of this law of giving, and I'm enjoying all this, you know, like abundance in my life. Am I really helping them? I'm not really giving to them. I felt
Mm.
that. I felt that it was not really right that I'm giving. I'm feeling good, but they're not coming out of poverty. They're just depending on me to come see them every weekend. So they get some money, they get this and that and clothes and stuff. So that's when we shifted from just giving to education. So
Wow.
that's where I started to incorporate this totally in my business, where every training I do also contributes to the mindset and skill set training of now refugees, because refugee numbers are growing in Malaysia, refugees
Yes.
and marginalized communities here. And I've seen that when we develop leadership in some of them, they start to do their own amazing little business and come out of poverty. They create their own little communities, their love and respect
Wow.
communities, where they start sharing and sharing resources so nobody goes hungry. They're not fighting over resources. I told them no such thing as scarcity, just find abundance, you know,
Yes.
find resources that you can do. And we've got like a refugee that we were coaching here in Malaysia also. We met him when he was 15, now he's 21, I think. He's a TEDx speaker. He runs a volunteer network. I've
Oh,
got a low income single mom refugee, left the country because of the violence and all that, came here. She's running her own hair business, and she is a leader, which in her country, she's like, women are never leaders, you know. So she's now a leader in her community, where men even go and meet her to ask for support and help. So all of these amazing transformations happen through what I saw. I was doing my little thing that I was
yes.
doing through giving, and I saw all of this abundance, and I said, this is God's work.
Yes.
This is God's work. This is what, when you are grateful, I will give you more means. And that is why it became to me, it came to me to be conscious of gratitude, of giving, and of
Yes.
forgiveness all the time. And these three things, giving, great gratitude, and forgiveness, is actually love and respect. Yeah.
Mm. Oh my gosh. You know, I'm curious with the work that you've done and the lives that you've, the people you've been able to impact. What's one of the most powerful lessons that you've learned from maybe a refugee, maybe from a sex worker, maybe from an orphan, but what's one of the most powerful lessons that you personally, because I know it goes both ways, right? And we benefit when we are able to show up and help. So what's one of the most powerful lessons you've learned from
I,
someone?
I've Yeah, thanks. I've learned that when they forgive, I think that
Mm.
that is the most powerful. That is the first step, actually. Letting go of all those baggages in the past. We
Yeah.
don't carrying it into our present, because we're gonna go into the future. So let's move. Let's travel light,
Yeah.
and do some shopping along the way, maybe in the future.
I love
But
that.
all
Who doesn't
all
want to
those
shop?
yes, exactly. But all of those heavy stuff, those unnecessary baggage that we keep with us, that's just pulling us back. That's the first thing. When we let go. And I work on myself. I work on myself for the last 10 years. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness,
Mm,
letting go of all of those things like self-worthiness, money issues, all of this, not trusting people. I'm still learning. I'm still working on myself. And I noticed that in the marginalized communities, those who very responsible in really letting go and really taking action, like taking responsibility for their present and their future, those are the ones that really change. The people who are always stuck in the past, like, oh, this thing happened to me, poor me, that is still, a baggage that they still carry forward. So
sure.
that's what I noticed. Totally letting go, which is not easy, not easy, especially if you go through severe trauma and all that, right? So
Right.
it is something that is ongoing. So it's so important to be in a supportive community, have support to help. I got support to heal myself. So I'm supporting others also to heal themselves. So that is the first thing. And then we step into our self-worth,
Yeah.
that we have enough. We are enough already. And there's abundance. There's abundance of things. We just need to, what can I do now so that I can do this, I can do that. That's all we need to do.
Yes. And I'm curious because so it's interesting because I think this conversation provides perspective because no doubt the communities that you serve have been through and again, it's never about comparison, but more likely than not, they've been through more trauma than many of us listening today have. With that being said, I serve a lot of women who come from trauma backgrounds. Oftentimes it's sexual trauma, it could have been abuse growing up. What is one thing someone could do today to start to forgive if they are listening to this and realizing they're holding on still to what happened to them in the past? What's one thing they can do to forgive, to start to release some of that energy and be able to move forward?
Yeah. Well, for me, what I feel is that they want to forgive first.
Mm.
That they are actively, they say, yes, this is my intention, and they know forgiveness is good for them. And it's not about whether it is okay. What happened to them is okay. It's not making what happened to them okay. If whatever crime was done unto them, it's still a crime, and we still need to put the person in jail. Still need to do all the necessary things that's in the law, and it's not about shoving things under the carpet and say, never mind, I'm letting go and all that. No, it's not about that. Yeah, you need to hold the person still need to take responsibility, whoever has harmed you, right? But it's not to keep that hate, that anger, that burden for the rest of your life. Forgiveness is actually for the benefit of the person being hurt. It is actually to help the victim, and it's got nothing to do with the person who hurt you. The person who has hurt you will just, they need to go through their own you know I mean, if they need to be accountable for all their work, they need to go through that. But whoever has been victimized, the hurt that is done unto them, forgiveness is important for them to heal, for them to move forward, for them to move on. And that is how I first see that. That means they have to be really active and really want to forgive. That,
Yeah.
I know it's not easy, but I am willing to learn, and I'm willing to take all the steps. I'm willing to go through all this, whatever pain I remember, in order for me to heal myself. I mean, that is the first step.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Murshidah, this is, your work is so inspiring to me. And I know that for anyone listening as well, it is. And I'm so grateful for what you shared here. And so I want to ask two final questions. And the first is, where can someone connect with you and how can they get involved in what you're doing? So will you please tell us about a little bit more about, I know you've got groups for women, leadership. Tell us about what they are, what you're doing, and how we can get involved. And then I'll ask one final question.
Okay, sure. First thing you can do is connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Murshidah Said, as in Murshiddah. Last name is Said. You will see myself there in a purple hijab holding a microphone. So I'm on LinkedIn. So connect with me there, send me a message, and I will give you a link for you to get all my emails and updated programs. So I do run a platform called Family Leadership Community, where I do a lot of women empowerment topics, how to step into your self-worthiness, your leadership, and also some women, they need to learn how to balance their life and family. How do we do that? So all of these things we'll be addressing in that. And they also have access to the Leave a Legacy Conscious Business Community, where I coach and mentor startup business owners who want to do good through their business. So what we do is we help them to achieve at least their 5 to 20K income within 90 days, while doing good at the same time. So their business model is also something that either helps the people or the planet or animals. Yeah.
Amazing.
So that's the thing. Yeah.
That's so amazing. I absolutely love that. And then final piece of advice, Murshidah. So for a woman who is looking to break through her first 6 figures and then beyond, what would be if you had one piece of advice you could give to her, what would that be?
Yeah, know that you're good enough. I think that is the one, your self-worthiness, because sometimes we think that at the back of our minds that, we want to do it. We have all the strategies, but that block, as in, why is it not happening to me? Why is all of these things, like I've done all the work, but why is it so difficult and all that? Just first thing you got to do is tell yourself that you are worthy, that you can receive that, and step into that energy, and make sure that when you are thinking of yourself as a 6-figure or multiple 6-figure business owner, that you can feel yourself, you can see yourself in that position. You see what you're doing, where you're impacting people, how you're helping people, and what lights you up, how even like how you're dressed, how you show up and it must feel good when you get in that vibe. That's where you can attract. And I see you will be amazed by all of these coincidences that will come into your space whenever you just step into that vibe. That for me is one of the first things.
Yes.
Less brain, more mindset, and also energy, the heart.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Murshidah, thank you so much. The way you run your business, the way you run your life, your model of generosity is so inspiring. And you've just got me fired up about going out and thinking about how I can just leverage more and more of the law of giving in my business and what I do. And I know for everyone listening as well, that they're feeling the same way. So thank you again, just from the bottom of my heart for who you are and for what you're doing. You're absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, thank you so much, Elyse. I'm so happy to see you here again, and and be in your space of talking to all these amazing women in your community as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so go connect with Murshidah, go connect with her on LinkedIn, get involved in her group, and really, really think about that law of giving this week as you're going about your sales and your business. And it can actually be so much more fun when we approach it that way, and your results will be amplified. So thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of She Sells Radio. And I can't wait to see you next week with another incredible guest. Bye for now.